Hello, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and I'm a congenital amputee of the right hand. In this show, I will interview other amputees and allow them to tell you their incredible life stories. I'll also feature family members of amputees and others who support the amputee community, all in an effort to discuss the challenges and triumphs of those living with limb loss. So stick around and listen to inspirational stories and find out why we say, We're Not Stumped. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today I welcome Susan Fumagalli. Susan has a long and distinguished career in athletics and was the captain of her swimming and diving teams. And this ultimately led to 2 Hall of Fames, including the St. Michael's College Hall of Fame in 2022. But a foot injury in 2015, while she was training for her 5th half marathon, kind of changed the direction of her life. And we're going to get into that today and more with Susan on the We're Not Stumped podcast. But first of all, Susan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here and sharing my story with you all.
I can't wait to learn from you because I know I'm going to learn a lot. And I think the listeners are going to learn a lot from you today. So thank you. We always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd like the listeners to learn more about you as a person.
Sure. I grew up, I'm the youngest of 6 girls in my family and loved sports. And I was an age group swimmer starting at the age of 5 because that's what my older sisters did. And I continued that career all the way up through college and experienced a little bit of success and was really proud of my accomplishments. And years later, eventually led to that Hall of Fame induction, which I am really, really, really proud of. But when I graduated from college, I took a break from swimming and took up running. And before I knew it, I started with my first race was a 5-miler. And then I decided that I wanted to tackle a half marathon and kind of fell in love with running again until it kind of derailed my career with a foot injury.
Yeah, and that foot injury led to a lot of a big journey in your life. Can you explain some of what you went through or all of what you went through, starting with that foot injury?
Sure. So I was training for my 5th half marathon. I eventually went to the doctor because my foot was really, really bothering me, and they couldn't quite explain what was going on. So they sent me to a foot and ankle surgeon, and I had torn all 4 plantar plates in the bottom of my foot. The plan was to surgically reconstruct it. And after several months of physical therapy, hopefully in about 6 months, I would be able to learn to run again. But at 6 weeks, that plan was derailed as my foot turned stone cold, purple, and swollen, and I had developed a wound on my foot that just wasn't healing. And that really began a journey across the country to visit some of the best doctors at some of the best medical facilities in the country. And so many of them said I had something seriously wrong with my lower extremity. They didn't know what it was and were not it. And fortunately, I landed at the University of Pittsburgh, and the attending physician took a real interest in my case. And he said, Susan, I have no more idea of what's wrong with your foot than anyone else. But the next place that you need to go is the National Institutes of Health and into the Undiagnosed Disease Network, and I will help get you in. And he was true to his word. And I ended up at the NIH, and they did all sorts of tests and comprehensive studies. And they did a much needed biopsy on my amputated limb and my right leg that had been uninjured and healthy. And they came back with the results, and they said they identified a process that they had never seen before and didn't know how to fix. And these were not words that you wanted to hear from the world's best medical scientists. Yeah. And they did follow that up by saying the next place that you need to go is Johns Hopkins University, and you need to see Jonathan Forsberg. And he was described to me as brilliant and cutting edge. And that began my journey to becoming a bilateral above knee amputee with the OPRA implant system by Integrum. And that form of osseointegration, which is the only FDA approved method of osseointegration changed my life. It got me up from not being able to walk since I injured my foot in 2015 to where I am now walking miles every single day.
Can you explain what the whole osseointegration is and what it's comprised of for people that may not be aware?
Sure, the Oprah implant system is a two-stage surgery. And what they do is they implant a fixture into the femur. It's a screw fit. And that surgery, uh, you need about 3 months to heal. And then they do stage two, where they put the abutment that anchors to the fixture. And then after a very detailed uh, protocol of rehabilitation called the weight bearing protocol, where you gradually get your femur adjusted to be able to get ready for a process. Uh, you then get the axor, which attaches the traditional prosthetic leg to this abutment. So it is a bone anchored prosthesis.
And that's going to
And
have a lot of advantages, I would imagine.
it does. So it eliminates the use for a traditional socket, which is amazing. Anyone that is struggling with a socket because of sweat and blisters and skin breakdown and irritation really has a chance of being able to walk freely of a socket. And it just changes your life so much. And because you are in anatomical alignment, because the bone has the fixture and your bone is positioned so that it matches your contralateral leg. And it allows for a very normal, natural gait. And when I had my left leg done, I was walking unassisted with no gait abnormality in less than 9 months.
Wow.
And when I lost my right leg thereafter, there was extensive physical therapy. My goal was always to be able to walk unassisted. And my team said up front, it's a tall order. And I said, I know, but I'm going to do it. And I can be stubborn when I want to be. And being stubborn, usually serves me pretty well because I am determined and I'm determined to do it. And when someone says no, I find a way to make it happen within reason. Like, I can't run, that's fine. I can walk though. And it has, and that attitude served me really well. I didn't shy away from the hard work, and I am now walking 3 to 5 miles every day right now, unassisted, and I'm walking very, very smooth. And I'm really, really proud of everything I have accomplished. And my medical team at Johns Hopkins is absolutely amazed at what I have done, and they're pretty proud of everything that I've accomplished. I have had a very complicated case to get to them. I have thrown them every curveball under the sun, and they tackled it piece by piece. They were truly the first set of doctors that took me on, were willing to take a chance, and laid out a plan and adapted when they had to. And I was flexible enough to do it and committed. And the journey to get to that point, wow, was it really challenging, because I had so many doctors along the way say there's something seriously wrong, not it. And it was this team at Johns Hopkins that said, this is what we're going to do, and this is our plan. And with a lot of hard work and dedication by both patient and team,
Yeah, well, that's
had a pretty happy ending.
the Hall of
And
Fame
and and I
collegiate
and I
swimmer.
keep working on it.
Yes. But the mindset of a collegiate Hall of Fame swimmer, I'm sure, came in quite handy. You're very determined. There's no question about it. But talking about the osseointegration again and talking about sockets, the human body expands and contracts just like wood, let's say. So that's another thing I would think that another benefit to it. There's days where the socket feels great. There's days where it doesn't feel great. This sounds like every day because it's affixed to your
Yes.
skeletal structure.
Yes.
works every day.
Yes. So I pop my legs on and off, two legs in about 20 seconds. It's amazing. I don't have to worry about getting a liner on just right. It just, the Axor screws on to the abutment and I am in safe and secure. I went to an event in Atlanta over the summer and it was for exclusively for bilateral above knee amputees. And the overwhelming majority of the participants are in traditional sockets, or they're not walking, or they're just learning to walk on stubbies, and it's a very, very long process.
Yeah.
So this event was in August, and Atlanta in August, it's about 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And I'm doing these mobility courses, walking, doing slopes, and all of that type of thing very confidently with my osseointegration legs. I was astounded at the number of people that were just walking along, and the next thing you know, their socket just falls off their limb. And it's like, oh my gosh. And this just didn't happen once. I mean, I lost count the number of times that bilateral amputees were stepping out of their sockets because they lost suction. And or they had to sit down and take them off, and they would just pour buckets of sweat outside of their out of their liners. And it's like, oh my gosh, I had never experienced that because my time as a below knee amputee, I healed well from the amputation, but then the undiagnosed condition wreaked havoc on my limb. And the pain from multiple neuromas and trapped nerves didn't allow me in a prosthesis. And while we worked towards it, I had developed two small spots on the base of my limb. We were very cautious about it. Instructions, don't put anything on until this is cleared up. Keep me posted. Well, within 3 days, the skin just shredded off the base of my limb, creating full skin thickness wounds that actually never healed. And that was when I was able to get to the Hopkins team, and we started the plan to try to get me back on 2 feet. So a prosthesis was never going to, traditional prosthesis was never going to be my reality. So I went into these surgeries, and the surgeries are not easy. I mean, they are screwing an implant into your femur.
Yes.
And it takes time to heal, and then you're faced with another surgery. But every time I had a surgery, I was getting closer to walking. So I embraced it with open arms and with the attitude of, this is what's going to give me my life back, because I'm not going to have to worry about something going on my skin and my skin breaking down every 30 seconds. And when we started physical therapy, taking those first steps in over 5 years on 2 feet, granted, one of them was a prosthetic device, a sea leg,
Yeah.
but wow, it was a really emotional moment to take those steps. And I had never walked as an above knee, and my physical therapist captured that video of my first steps, and there was a lot of room for improvement. But over the next several months, we worked really, really hard and really perfected a gait that had no abnormality. And I remember a follow-up appointment, and I went into Osseointegration Clinic, where I'm meeting with the entire team,
Wow.
which is comprised of an orthopedic surgeon, a plastic surgeon, a physical medicine and rehabilitation doctor, a prosthetist, and physical therapist. So the whole team knows what's going on at all times, and I don't have to worry about scheduling all sorts of different appointments. It's one, and everybody knows, and this is the plan. And I was using my cane that particular day. And one of my doctors looked at me and he said, "Susan, why are you still walking with a cane?" And I didn't have a good answer. It was just, I was just accustomed to it. He said, "You don't need it anymore." So when I got home, I put it in the closet, and I was walking beautifully, and I was so excited. It was short-lived because my right leg was declining pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
It was uninjured and healthy until one day I woke up one morning and my foot had swelled all the way up almost to my knee. And over the ensuing months, it just continued to get worse. It got purple, the skin would break down. So that unidentified process that the NIH was unable to figure out had somehow impacted my right limb, even though there was no surgery there to try to fix anything. So the whole process of the how and the why and all of that was just really unknown. So shortly after and the team also wanted to make sure that the osseointegration was going to be successful on my left side. And then they went right above the knee and did the Oprah implant by Integrum at the time of that initial amputation surgery. And I said I wanted to walk unassisted. And after a very long rehabilitation process, I'm walking like a dream.
And you said there was a series of surgeries to do the
Yes,
implants?
it is a two-stage surgery where
Okay.
they implant the fixture, then they anchor the abutment to the fixture. So there are two surgeries involved there. So I was fortunate to have the amputation and the fixture implanted at the same time. So I just had those two surgeries and then I had the two on my right.
And I think, well, listening to you, there's no question you would never go back and change it. That part of it, you did the right thing by going to the doing the osseointegration. But I would think that someone sitting where I'm sitting, my question would be, was there a lot of pain involved? Because like you're saying, they are actually putting something in your bone. Was there any kind of pain involved, or is it just it is what
Sure.
it is? You got to live through it.
With yeah, with any surgery,
Yeah,
there's going to be pain. I mean,
good point.
surgery
Good point.
is not easy.
Yeah.
But my team also had a pain management doctor who took charge of all of that post-surgery. So I had an epidural that they kept in for the first several days. So that really minimized the worst pain. And then when that came out and the other nerve blocks, they were able to manage my pain very well. And they didn't rush things. They took their time. I I know when I need to be patient, and I was, and I listened to my team and did everything I was supposed to do. And the second stage, I mean, everybody's a little bit different. The second stage was a little bit easier, but again, the pain management team really took great charge of all of that, handled everything immediately post-op. You do need to be, do need to limit your range of motion initially so that the muscle platform will heal. The way that the Oprah implant is done, they score the bone and the skin is stitched to the bone. So our aperture sites are really nice and tight. So we do not have a stoma. Yes, we do have an abutment protruding through our femur, but the skin is nice and tight around. There's no friction of skin and implant because it is so nice and tight. I have fortunately not had any issues with any type of drainage or anything like that, and it has just been amazing. And people are like, I don't want all the downtime associated, with surgery and all of that, and it's not for everyone.
Sure.
But all of the two surgeries, the healing time in between, the weight bearing protocol, all of this was just steps along the way that was going to get me back on 2 feet. Now that I'm on 2 feet, I mean, at the time, it seemed like, wow, this is going to be forever.
Yeah.
But now, all of whatever that length of time was, just melted away. And it was so worth it. So yes, it's two surgeries. Yes, it's 6, 7, 8 months that you have to be dedicated. And again, everybody's different. And for me, it was a
Sure.
much longer time because I was dealing with two legs.
Yeah.
So I was dealing in years. But I knew that it was going to give me my life back. And so 2 years for the rest of my life to be able to
Yeah.
pop my legs on in 20 seconds, and I am in my legs from the minute my eyes open until I close them at night. I don't have to take them off. I don't have to readjust. I don't have to worry about stepping out of it. I am so confident in my legs that it's just the most incredible, amazing technology. And you have to be committed to wanting to do it. So those that want to rush the weight bearing protocol, they're not going to have a successful outcome. Those that want to, just get up and go, you really have to be dedicated and disciplined. And the protocol was designed for a successful outcome. And when you follow the protocol, you're going to reap the rewards. And wow, to see what I'm doing today, to what was happening when I injured my foot. Wow. I can still swim, and that is really rewarding for me because that was always a part of my background. But there's no one that said that I couldn't walk a 5K. And I have my sights set on, my first race that I am going to walk. I am going to cross that start line, and I am going to walk that race with those who support me. And I am going to cross that finish line, and I'm going to have an official time. And I will feel like I've, kind of come full circle from that training. And who knows, maybe one day I can work up to that half marathon again, that half marathon distance. And I can walk it. And I am so proud of being able to do that. And I am so proud of my legs. And I am in shorts or a skirt above the knee every day. And I'm not shying away from showing my legs. And it's created some really interesting conversations,
Yeah, I imagine.
mostly positive.
Good.
I was on a flight once and was having a conversation with a woman, and she said, I am a physical therapist. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? And it's just like, oh, sure. And it created a really great conversation. And then I got to ground transportation, and another woman was kind of looking at my legs, and she was like, I'm really sorry, but can I ask you a question? I'm a physical therapist. And it's like, this is really interesting. And it create and just being able to have these conversations with people. But I also have had non-medical people ask me a lot of questions, and it just intriguing about the whole situation. And I was out in the community one day, and I could feel someone sort of staring at me.
Mhm.
And she said, wow, I just love your legs. And I'm like, thank you so much. I'm pretty proud of them. And then she saw me walk, and she was just it was a really rewarding moment to be recognized for the success that I was happened that had happened. People don't need to feel bad for me because I'm a bilateral above knee amputee. My gosh, it actually allowed me to get me my life back. And I will be forever grateful for that experience. I mean, I wouldn't wish this upon anybody, but it happened because I wasn't going to be going anywhere fast, without this support of my medical team. And to see what I've accomplished over the last few years is tremendous.
Well, let me know when you do that, when you start and cross that finish line, when you're planning on doing that. Because on Thursdays I have a segment called Headlines, and I always talk about what's going on in the community. And this is a
Okay.
perfect story that I'll give everyone an update. So I can't wait to hear more about that. But you talked about the amputee, and we talked a little bit before we hit record about some of your journey through the amputee. And one story in particular that stuck with me was when the person told you, "Hey, you're going to need a second, or I'm going to tell you exactly the truth." Can you tell, because there's people that are going through their own journeys and they're in different phases of their own journey. And I think we just need to learn that we we go through our own journey, and sometimes you don't, kind of your point, 2 years of going through those surgeries, it's so hard sometimes to see the other side. And you got some very bad, there was, yeah, very bad news that affected you. Can you talk about that day and what was going through
Yeah,
your mind?
so we were trying to figure out what was going on with my surgical foot that wasn't healing and was swollen. And it was that specialist that I'd seen, a vascular specialist, and she had done a CT scan, and she looked at the CT scan. She looked at me, she looked at my damaged foot, and she said, Susan, I'm going to hit you with some really hard news. Let me know when you're ready. And I took a couple of seconds and said, okay. But in those couple of seconds, and it really wasn't longer than two or three, I must have thought of a million things that went through my head. Like, what is she going to say? And it's like, okay. And she said, Susan, if you were my sister, I would tell you to amputate. You will get your life back. And I have no doubt you will be running marathons again. And I didn't know I could cry so hard so fast. And
Yeah.
I never knew an amputee. I don't know that I ever saw one. I have a career in intercollegiate athletics. So I'm dealing with healthy 18 to 22-year-olds who are competing in sport. And all of a sudden, a doctor tells me I'd be better off without my leg. And that was really hard to take. And that precipitated a lot of other doctor's appointments for other doctors to say, there's something seriously wrong. I don't know what it is. I'm not it. And I would take time to do these extensive travels, go to the best medical facilities, best doctors, all of them to say, some of these appointments were less than 5 minutes. I had one that was less than 30 seconds, and I'm sitting there shell shocked. And
Yeah.
working with my foot and ankle surgeon, who is absolutely amazing, he never gave up hope on me. I kept waiting for him to say, Susan, I'm a foot and ankle surgeon. I don't know what's wrong. There's nothing more I can do. And he never gave up on me. He championed me. He still follows me today. And the impact that a foot and ankle surgeon has had on my overall medical journey has just been tremendous. He did recognize, and he did everything he could to let me keep my failing foot. And I went to a follow-up appointment with him one day that was kind of, Dr. Hall, I really need to see you. And he looked at me and he said, Susan, it's time. If you promise that you'll come back tomorrow, I'll let you go home, and we need to amputate, and we need to do it now. And that was really, really hard.
Yeah.
I handled it well, and I was really excited about getting into a prosthesis so that I could learn to run. And that eventually failed. And I had some ups and downs in that journey. I tried to stay optimistic, but there was a lot of hard still in there. And I had a team around me that helped me embrace that hard. And I actually saw one of my first physical therapists yesterday. And so I was seeing her in 2016, 17. So this is now 8 years later. And she said, I have always wondered why something like this came upon you. It makes no sense to anyone or anything. Nobody can explain what happened to you. And one of the lessons I learned in there, embrace what's ahead. I believed, I always had hope. And when I couldn't believe, those around me who loved me did it for me and helped me through. And I was able to turn this around with all my, yes, I had, some really difficult surgeries. I mean, it was not easy in my time of the above knee amputations and the osseointegration surgeries. I mean, there was a lot that was going on with the undiagnosed condition that caused the team a lot of challenge. But they kept persevering, and I kept moving forward. And I've been able to make my mess my message. And I have been involved with the Amputee Coalition, and I have talked with other amputees who might have been struggling. And it is so rewarding to be able to share my successes and maybe give somebody who is struggling a little glimmer of hope. I have also completed lead advocacy training with the Amputee Coalition
Nice.
and working with them and hopefully working with politicians at the state and local level to get legislation passed so that everybody can move, so that prosthetic devices are not deemed medically unnecessary for people.
Yes.
Um, I learned to advocate for myself
Yeah.
first and foremost, because if I'm not going to do it, no one's going to do it for me. It was pretty powerful to fight insurance to make them see things through my lens. I deserve better.
Yeah.
And when I deserve better, somebody needs to do something and I need to explain to them why I deserve better. And that led to a lot of positive things and really kind of fueled my passion to do some extra advocacy to help people learn how to, you know, pick themselves up, dust themselves off and go after it.
Yeah.
And to see people who have gone with the Oprah implant, and I have talked with other amputees that I'm thinking of doing this, and then to have them do it and see their successes, and it's created some really beautiful friendships out there. And
That's
you
one thing
just
I got to say, that the limb loss community is definitely a strong community.
It is, and it's a special one. And while I never dreamed I would ever be a part of it, and I never dreamed that I would be able to kind of fit into it. But I have turned my amputation into something very powerful. And if I can help just one person along the way, that is extraordinary. And just the education to, colleagues and friends around me that sometimes they're nervous to talk about it and they don't want to make me feel bad, and just educating them and saying it's okay to ask questions, and I encourage questions. And I actually just had a conversation before we came on with a new staff member and kind of explained to her my story, and she was just really really amazed.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple things. I want to ask you, if you people going through their own journey, and after you've gone through yours, and I mean, I guess we still continue to go through our journeys. Our life doesn't end. But if there's a couple things that you can give advice to people that are maybe early in their journeys. I know you talked about advocacy, maybe that's it. You talked about having a great team around you, so maybe the caregivers and the team. What are some of the other things too that you would like to share with others that are maybe early in their own journey?
I had two words that were always very powerful for me. One was believe and hope. And when I couldn't believe for me, those around me did. And when I was faced with becoming a bilateral above knee amputee, believe was a really big thing, and so was hope. And there was a 2001 ad during the Super Bowl done by Toyota that featured Paralympic swimmer Jessica Long. And there was two lines in there. It might not be easy, but it'll be amazing. There's hope and strength in all of us. And those words just resonated so much with me. And I also knew that at some point, I wanted to have a service dog. And I always referred to my future service dog as my hope. Um, and on February 12th of this year, I was partnered with a service dog who has been amazing in my journey, where he has just boosted my confidence so much. Um, and it's like we believe in each other. And just having his leash in my hand, the two of us together are just walking everywhere and just that confident soaring. And I always referred to my future service dog as my hope. And Marshall Hope came into my life on February 12th of this year. And we have just been doing amazing. But believe and hope were just two words that I just concentrated my efforts on and had the belief that there was a medical team out there that would help me and hoped would help me. And that's what my integrated team has done. They helped me believe, and they instilled a lot of hope. And every step along the way, I just kept embracing it more and more. And I am just so lucky I found my way to them. It was a bit of a circuitous route, but well, it just amazing.
Believe in hope. I like the way you say that. If people want to learn more about you and the osseointegration that you went through, I think your story is featured on their website.
Yes, actually, it was when I was new to the implant. I was a unilateral amputee with the Oprah implant system in my left limb. And so, yes, that story was published and is on the Integrum site, integrum.se. And certainly my journey has changed a lot. I am an ambassador with Integrum.
Awesome.
And I am always happy to talk with anyone that's interested about the implant and learning about the process, helping them find a center near them, or if they're willing to travel, to find a team that would be appropriate for them to evaluate whether they're a good candidate and help them through the process as much as I can.
It sounds absolutely amazing. And as I went through the website, I noticed that they're even working with upper limb amputees. So it's not just lower, it's upper, like someone like me.
Yes.
Is that kind of, I think you said it was kind of in the early phases, but
Yeah,
let me
well,
learn more about that.
the above knee Oprah implant system is the only FDA approved method of osseointegration, and they received FDA approval in October of 2020. They can do below knee osseointegration with the Oprah implant by petitioning the FDA on a compassionate use waiver,
Okay.
and they can do the same with the upper above elbow.
Yes.
And my surgeon has actually done his first thumb and digits.
Wow.
So that really is opening up a lot of amputees' lives.
Sure.
And more FDA approval is being worked on and is on the way. And one of there are over almost 35 years of data with Integrum of outcomes, and the script that has been produced by them, it is just phenomenal. The rehabilitation process, the plan, how the surgery is done. We have really nice tight aperture sites that there's no friction between skin and the abutment. Everything is rock solid, and it is just the outcomes when you follow the protocol is truly amazing. And the way that Integrum establishes it, they establish centers of excellence across the country that have integrated teams of outstanding orthopedic surgeons, plastic surgeons, rehabilitation and medicine physicians, and a physical therapist and a prosthetist that are all joined together. And it allows for the effort to be focused on the patient and patient outcomes. And the whole team sees the patient, so everybody has the chance to evaluate their piece of the puzzle. And everybody knows what's going on. And if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, not just one doctor knows, the entire team knows what's going on and what needs to be done. at that particular point in time. So that is just amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
and the support that you get through the hospital system, the fact that it's FDA approved, um, the surgeries are approved, the Axor is approved, all of that is packaged together. So it makes for a very easy process, to get that insurance approval. It's not experimental, and
Yeah.
it's a great process. And I had so little to worry about. I was completely confident going into my surgery, and it has exceeded my expectations. Wow.
Wow, to say it exceeded your expectations.
Oh my
That's
gosh, yes. One of the incredible things, well, yes, I wake up in the morning, the minute my eyes open, my prostheses go on. They stay on all day, every day, do not come off until I'm ready to close my eyes at night. The We weight bear through our femurs, so we are able to feel everything on the ground underneath our feet.
wow.
Something that someone in a traditional socket, proprioception is so hard to learn
Yeah.
with a traditional socket because you're not weight bearing on your bone. I can feel different surfaces under my feet. I can feel short carpet, shag carpet. I can feel pebbles underneath my feet. I can feel grass sticking to my sneakers. I can feel snow. I can feel it crunch. I can feel different uh just all the differences on the ground. It's amazing. But one of the most incredible things that I discovered with my dog Marshall is he's frequently in touch with me. If he's near me, he has his paw that will, go across my knee, or he'll be touching my foot. We go in to brush teeth, and he
Hmm.
comes with me, and he puts his paws across my feet. I take a lot of pictures of my feet, and I can feel it. I don't have to look down to know that Marshall's paw is across my foot. I can feel him do that. And I can feel that connection. And it just makes my heart explode every time that happens. And I don't take for granted when I go outside. I I mean, walking on grass is not easy by any stretch of the imagination as a bilateral above knee.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be looking down at my feet because I know where my foot is in space.
Wow.
And and I can tackle walking on that uneven soft surface, and I can feel it underneath me, and I know what I'm hitting. And just having that also boosts confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many things about the Oprah implant that has boosted my confidence. And I think that's just one of the many reasons why I'm successful in being able to walk independently.
Thank you for explaining that. That wasn't a question I would have been able to ask, but I think people need to hear that. How you can
The
feel that.
osseo and the proprioception with the Oprah implant system is incredible. The first time I stood on my prosthesis, it was overwhelming because I could feel it. Now, I didn't know what a traditional socket really felt like because I just hadn't experienced that because of failure to get in. And I mean, it was just amazing to be able to feel that surface underneath me. So it just creates a whole new level of confidence.
That's fantastic. And I know you talked a little bit about this already about what you're doing now, but as you look to the future, is there anything else you're looking forward to? I know you're an athletic director, I think now, if I'm
I
not
am
mistaken.
senior associate director of
Okay.
athletics for a Division III comprehensive college program at Gettysburg College. We have 24 athletic teams, very successful conference championships, national championships, a lot of national postseason recognition, which is really fun. I handle the administration of the 24 athletic teams, but I also really appreciate getting involved in advocacy
Yeah.
and teaching. I guest lecture with some physical therapy courses, and uh, other students, and it has truly become a passion that I never dreamed that a door would open in that capacity, and to have that happen. Oh, wow. I can just imagine what I can do in the amputee community. There's over 5.6 million people in the United States alone living with limb loss and limb difference. And whether it is osseointegration, talking about the Oprah implant system, it's not right for everybody. But being able to talk with an amputee who might be struggling, to teach them how to advocate for themselves, help them believe, help them have hope when they're really struggling, to develop friendships with other people that look like you, that understand what it is that we go through, is really powerful. And those connections are so important. I mean, they're important to me. And if I can help an amputee somewhere down the line, that's really powerful and so rewarding. And I have developed some really special friendships in the amputee population, that how do you handle this, and just being able to provide some guidance. And if anybody can learn something from my journey, it helps make sense of it.
Well,
and certainly I've given doctors quite an education.
Well, it's good. You're helping others in that way too. I know you've helped a lot of people. You certainly helped more than one person, I'm sure. And I think I told you this before we started actually recording. I've had some people reach out to the We're Not Stumped podcast wanting to learn osseointegration, and they're asking some questions. So I told you that earlier, and you were very gracious enough to say, hey, if there's any other questions, you'd be happy to come back on. I'm sure they can just reach out to you, or even the website that you said too, however it works out. But I tell you, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to be on this podcast. It means a lot to me for you to be on this podcast.
I mean, they can go straight to integrum.se. They can ask questions through the Amputee Coalition. They can contact any of the ambassadors out there, of which I am one. They can follow me on socials, on Facebook and Instagram. And there's a whole bunch of us out there that are willing to answer questions and help people understand the process.
And the whole process,
the whole process.
Yeah, the amputee process, even the mental health process. I mean, you talked a lot about that already today, and the team that you had there, and yourself, and the believe in hope, which I wrote that down, and I love that. I think that's a great way to look at things. Thank you so much for being a guest on the We're Not Stumped podcast today. I can't wait to continue to watch your journey and all the things you're going to be able to accomplish, and let us know when you're going to do that start and finish of your next event, because I will talk about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, Mike. It's been my pleasure to share my story with you.
Thank you.
That was the We're Not Stumped podcast, hosted by Mike Bolland. If you want to be a guest on the program, reach out to Mike at his email address, mike@mikebolland.com. This podcast is produced by One Hand Man Productions. If you are looking to start your podcast, go to onehandmanproductions.com.